Hi, my name is Pankaj Dubey, and in this video we are going to talk about some of the very frequently asked interview questions in manual software testing. Right, so here I have compiled almost 50 interview questions that are being asked in manual software testing interview. And before that, what I want to share with you is what an interviewer expects from the candidate. Right. So the very first point that they expect from a candidate is the communication skills. Right. So if you have average communication skills, then too you can pass your first criteria. Because what they want ultimately is they want that you can communicate with your peers, or you can communicate clearly with your stakeholders or the subject matter expert. And if you're lacking in the communications, then probably the chances of being selected is really very low. What comes next in the series is that they want you to have a basic analytical and logical skills so that you can take a better decision whenever it is needed, right? So they can conduct a sample test based on some of the questionnaires, and what you'll have to do is you'll have to solve some basic math problems, you'll have to answer some basic grammar rules of English, and some of similar things that you'll have to answer in the paper. Alright, and now question number 3 and 4. Personally, I'm talking as an interviewer, then these two questions is really very important for me. And if you can answer the question number 3 and 4 in a clear manner, then probably your chances of getting selected is way higher than others, right? So for me, it works like 60% you are done if you can answer me clearly about question number 3 and 4. So what is question number 3? Question number 3 is that explain how the requirement is generated and how it reaches you. So in short, you have to explain me that what is the requirement life cycle, right? And talking about a business, then probably if you know that how in most of the cases the requirement is basically generated by the sales and marketing team, and then they share those requirements to the business people, right? And now business people are the one who talk to your technical head or the project manager that these are some requirements and I want these things to be implemented in my project, right? So this is how the requirement, this is a general use case, this is how the requirements are usually generated, but the answer could be anything else as well, right? So this question is really very important, and you should explain it in really a broad way. All right, now comes to the question number 4. So what you have to explain here is explain your role in your current project. So what you have to do is you have to explain that what is your KRA, how you work, what is your day, how it goes on, what are the steps that you do as part of your testing. So these are some things that you will have to answer as part of the question number 4. Now you'll have to justify your experience by answering some experience based questions. It could be any real-time scenario. So if you are stating that you have 4 years, 5 years of experience, then you'll have to also justify this thing, right? So they can ask any experience based interview questions like and on average how many test cases you execute in a day, or how you escalate any issue. So what you should answer is you should say that it really depends upon the complexity of the test cases. Like you can say that there are 3 complexities: normal, complex and very complex. So the matrix is something like if the test case is very complex, then you can execute only 4 or 5 test cases, right? I'm not stating that this is a generic or generalized number, but you can say it accordingly to the complexity of the test cases. You execute certain number of test cases. Now coming to the next point, which is write some sample test case for any object. So what I do not prefer this question, frankly speaking, but I have seen that many interviewers ask you, they give you a real-time object, like let's say they can say that write some test cases for a pen, write some test cases for a bulb, or write some test cases for any digital clock. So they can give you a runtime. At runtime they can give you some examples or some objects, and they'll ask you to write some test cases for that, right? So if you know the test case for those products, then it's well and good. You can straight away say that. In case if you do not know the answer for those objects, or if you do not have any idea about the test cases, that how you're not getting it on the runtime, then what you can say that you write the test cases based on the functional requirements and specification, right? So this will broadly answer your question. So what does it mean? So functions are the expected behavior of that object, right? Let's say if there is an alarm clock, what do you want You want it to start alarming at certain point of time, right? So this is one requirement. Similarly, you can put one or more requirements. And talking about specifications, what you have to answer is that how it looks like, right? The logo, the styling, the size, the model name, the spellings. So these are some things that comes under as part of the specifications. So broadly, these are some categories that an interviewer expects from you to answer. Now coming to the point, we'll have question one by one. I have listed top 50 questions, and let's talk about them one by one now. First of all, what is software testing? So software testing is the practice of executing an application under test with an intention of finding bugs and errors so that it can be fixed before the application is released in the live environment, right? So this is an intentional approach or intentional practice of finding bugs in any given application. Good. Let's move to the next question. Why testing is important? So you can answer these points that testing is important to make sure that all business requirements are implemented, functionalities are behaving as it is expected, application is secure enough against security threats, it doesn't break under working circumstances, it doesn't harm the business reputation, performs functions within an acceptable time, and works well on all supported operating system, devices and screens. This is also called compatibility testing of the application. And to make sure that customer can trust and rely on your product. Question number 3. What is QA and QC? So QA is a systematic and scientific approach of monitoring and improving the software development process. So if you have a sense of that, what are the test, what are the life cycle, what are the phases are there in a SDLC model. So what a QA person does is QA person monitors each phase of SDLC so that no bug can be generated, right? So this is a preventive activity so that they can prevent the bugs from occurring in the application. Now talking about QC is a validation activity. This is something like called detection of the bugs, right? So QC is a validation activity where the quality of the developed product is evaluated with the benchmark or any competitive programs set standard to make sure that the software quality is adhering the defined or expected quality. In addition to that question, they may also ask that what is the difference between QA and QC. So QA stands for quality assurance, QC stands for quality control. QA is a verification process, whereas QC is a validation activity. QA is process oriented, whereas QC is a product oriented. QA prevents the defect and QC finds the defect. Similarly, it improves the development process. QA improves the development process, and QC improves the developed product quality. Requirement document, design reviews and code reviews are done as part of the quality assurance process, whereas product testing is done as part of the QC activity. QA is performed without any program execution, whereas QC is done by executing the program. Now, what is STLC? So STLC stands for Software Testing Lifecycle. STLC is a set of process which is executed in a systematic manner to achieve the testing goal. So STLC is a set of phases that are part of the software testing lifecycle. So now talking about the STLC phases, those are test planning, test designing, test environment setup or test bed setup, test execution, bug reporting and management, requirement traceability metrics, and test reporting. So these are some phases of STLC. What happens as part of test plan? People used to define the scope and objective of the test release, and they define that what are the methodology that they are going to use as part of this testing activity, what are the risks they have, what are the resources they have, and timelines, and all those things will be decided as part of the test planning phase. Now as part of the test designing, what they do, they get the requirement and the test team starts writing the test scenarios, test cases and test scripting. Test environment is a phase where the environment is created. Test environment is basically a dummy environment where a tester can execute their test case and they can give a confirmation that whether the requirement is functioning as expected or not. Next is test execution, where the tester will actually execute the test case and they will see whether the expected result is matching with the actual result. In case if it is not matching, then the next phase will come into the picture, and that is bug reporting and management. So in this phase, if you find that there is any bug in the application, you will be reporting it to your team. Next is requirement traceability matrix, and as part of this phase what people do is they map the requirement with the test cases, and so that they can calculate at any given point of time that what is the coverage of testing that they have done. And the last point that the testers do is test reporting. So what they do is they report all the test results, they share the screenshots and they share the test results with the stakeholders. Now, next point is what is test planning. As I gave you a brief in the last slide, we are going to talk about it in detail. Now, a test plan is the first phase of STLC where test planning document is created. It describes that what and how to achieve quality in application under test. So these are some points that a person needs to cover in test planning document. What they have to do is they have to analyze the business requirement, they have to find the test objective, they have to define the test strategy, analyze the risks. It could be anything like tools, resources and time. Now next is test environment and test data preparation, define entry and exit criteria, define a traceability matrix, schedules and timelines, and deliverables. Question number 7. So what is test designing? As part of test designing, a test lead or senior tester writes the test scenarios, test cases and test procedures or test scripts as part of the test designing phase. So these are as part of test designing what comes into the picture: test scenario writing, test case writing and test script writing. So what is test scenario? In test scenario, you broadly divide the requirement into lower segments. Going by definition, it means test scenario, meaning finding out that what to be tested in any given requirement. This is to make sure that end-to-end functionality is covered. Right. So once you write the test case, you will have to write the test cases to cover each test scenario. So to test the test scenarios, test cases are written which contains that each possible function related to that requirement. Next is test scripts. So test scripts are the phase where it is written that how a test case will be executed. So what you have to write as part of test scripts, you will have to write the steps, and then you will have to write the activity against those test steps, and then the actual or expected result. Let's see this in the next slide. Here the interviewer may ask that how you write test scripts. Right, so in order to execute test cases, a detailed procedure needs to be written where the writer will mention all the steps to be performed and what should be the expected result for each activity. So here I have attached one snippet. Here you can see that this is the ID of test case, this is the test case name, login with valid credentials and verify the system behavior. The prerequisites are like any test data. It could be anything like you can generate any random email ID and password, and then there are the steps. So against each step it is written that what activity a person needs to perform, right, and in front of that activity what is the expected result for that activity. So this is how a test case script is written. Question number 9 is what is test entry and exit criteria. So entry criteria is the prerequisites that needs to be fulfilled before test team can begin their testing. So what you do is, as part of entry criteria, you have to pass the smoke checks or smoke testing or sanity checks. So unless the smoke and sanity is not passed, you won't be proceeding with the other test case execution, because smoke and sanity are the critical functionality of the project, and if those functions are not working, which means you cannot test the other requirements. Right. Similarly, if you talk about the exit criteria, then exit criteria are a condition that must be fulfilled by test team before they can conclude their testing activities. So the test coverage should reach 100% of traceability matrix. This is the first condition, and after that all the test deliverables are shared and many other things are shared with the stakeholders or the client. Now, what is test environment? So the test environment is the dummy configuration of software, hardware, where a tester executes their test cases. This thing is also known as test bed setup, where all software and hardware configurations are made in a dummy environment so that a tester can execute their test cases against those requirements. Usually the environments are of 4 types: development, QA, staging and production. Right. So development environment is usually for the developers only, whereas talking about the testers, then they do their testing on QA environment. Once they are done with the QA on the QA environment, the UAT will be performed for that requirement, and UAT are generally performed on the staging environment, which is the replica of the live site with the same data and with the same configuration. It's just that they are pointed to a dummy environment. Their URL is different. And once the UAT is passed on the staging environment, then the product requirement will be deployed on the production environment or the live environment. Now, what is RTM or Requirement Traceability Matrix? The Requirement Traceability Matrix or RTM is a document that maps the business requirement and test cases to trace the coverage of testing at any given point of time and to ensure that no requirement is missed as part of the testing. Now, question number 12. So, an interviewer may ask, what do you do when you are done with your testing activity and left with nothing to do? Right, so they basically want you to answer that how you utilize your free time when you have no project to work or if you have no work to do. So what you can answer is, you can answer that you make SOPs, you upgrade lesson learned document, you update lesson learned document, and you do skill enhancement. So what is SOP? SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure, which is a document created to train new people that how to perform a certain task. Now, talking about updating the lesson learned document. So lesson learned document is a document that is created and maintained to document that what mistakes the team has done in the current release or what gap the team had that caused any problem. And every team member must go through the document so that the same mistake cannot be updated by any other team member. Now, point 3 is skill enhancement. So you can say that you utilize free time by learning the new tools and technologies that are coming into the market so that they can be sure that you will be utilizing your time when you have free time and you won't be misutilizing it. Now, question number 13, that what is SDLC? So SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. SDLC defines the standard phases involved throughout the software development practice. So the first phase that is a part of SDLC is requirement analysis, and then the project planning, then project designing, development, testing, deployment, and followed by maintenance. So these are the phases of SDLC. They may also ask you that can you name some of the popular SDLC models? So you can answer waterfall, spiral, prototype, iterative and incremental model, V model, W model, and agile model. If they ask you that what is waterfall model to explain, then you can answer that waterfall model is a sequential development model where each phase of SDLC is executed one after another in a linear way. So it's also called a linear sequential model. Right. So what is happening here? It is the same as the SDLC phase. It is just it is just executed in a sequential manner. So here you can see that requirement is followed by design, it is followed by development for the testing and the deployment and then the maintenance. The limitation that it has is that you cannot go back if there are any certain changes that needs to be made. Right. So once you are done with the requirement and you are now working in the designing, you cannot go back into the requirement and you cannot make any change there. So this is the limitation of waterfall model. The other very important model that is into market is called V model. In V model of the SDLC, the real development phases and testing plan goes side by side, as it can be interpreted as in a V shape. So here you can see that there is a V shape, and at one side of the V-shape, it is the SDLC phase, the requirement analysis, high level designing, low level designing or specification and coding, right? And in front of that it is just the planning of that phase. So it is just planning of the testing in front of this phase, SDLC phase. So here you can see when you are doing coding, in front of that it is written unit testing. So for each code you'll have to do the unit testing, right? For low level design or specification, you'll have to plan for the integration testing, which means that each segment is performing well when they are into the different segment or isolated segment. But how if we merge more than two units, then you'll have to perform the integration testing. At the time of high level designing, a tester or the test team performs for the or plans for the system testing, and at the time of requirement analysis, they plan for the user acceptance testing. Right, so next question is, do you know what is black box test case designing techniques? So that those techniques are called as equivalence class partitioning or ECP, boundary value analysis or BVA, decision table and use case testing. Now let's talk about them one by one. First of all, we are going to explain what is ECP or equivalence class partitioning. So ECP is a testing technique that divides the input test data into partitions of equivalent classes, and from each class minimum one data must be tested at least once. Scenario: so assume that there is an input field for age and it accepts the value from 1 to 100. So if we follow the ECP concept, then you'll have to divide the input into three categories. One is invalid class, second is valid class, and third one is again invalid class. So in invalid class, values will be from lower than the minimum value. So minimum value is it accepts is 1, so you'll have to put any value which is less than 0. So you can put 0, you can put any number which is in minus. Then you will have to write then you'll have to enter a valid number, so it could be any number from 1 to 100. Then again the invalid class, and as part of the invalid class you'll have to put some upper than the highest value that it can expect. So it can accept a higher value of 100, so you can put any number which is higher than 100. So you can put 101, 102 or any other number which is greater than 100. Right, so here you can see that there are some classes that I have written for this. So as part of class A, any value from valid input which is 1 to 100, any value which is lower than lowest, it could be 0, -1, -2, and then any value which is higher than highest, so it could be 100, 101. It is written wrong here, I have to update this. So you can write 100, 101, 102 or any number which is higher than 100, and then any alphanumeric number which is A1, B1, C1 sort of things, and any decimal number that you can put as part of the input field. Now BVA or boundary value analysis. So more application error occurs at the boundaries of input domain. Boundary value analysis testing technique is used to identify errors at the boundaries instead of finding errors in the center of input domain. So considering the same example where the input field accepts the value from 1 to 100, so if you follow the BVA concept, then how the requirement or how the input value will be broken. So one value is 1 to 100 and second value that comes on the boundary is 0 and 101. So which is one lower than the lowest value or the boundary value and one higher than the second boundary value. Now decision table. So decision table technique is used to in complex business scenarios where the input data will be determined based on some conditions. So what we are going to do is we are going to first check for certain conditions, and that if condition is passed, then we have to decide that what data that we need to process as part of the input. So here you can see I'm talking about an e-commerce site. So here you have two options, either cash or coupon. So if you have cash and no coupon, then you can place the order. Yes, you can place the order. And if you have no cash and coupon you have, then also you can place the order. But if you have no cash and no coupon, which means you cannot place the order. So these are some activities or these are some input data which can be defined after checking for certain conditions. Now question number 21. Do you know what is use case testing? So use cases capture the interaction between actors and the system so that you can write the maximum number of test cases. A use case is a description of particular use of the system by an actor. Each use case describes the interaction the actor has with the system in order to achieve a specific task. Now, the very important question of this interview is explain testing types. So here I have a test one chart. So broadly categorizing software testing, it is of two parts, static testing and dynamic testing. Talking about static testing, the review, walkthrough and inspection are done. So static testing means testing the application without executing the code. So what you can test without executing the code, you can test all the documents, designs, flowcharts which are created as part of the SDLC. Right, so static testing means you are testing the application but you are not going to execute the code. Whereas if you talk about the dynamic testing, which means you are going to execute the code and now you are checking the functional and non-functional behavior of the software under test. So considering the functional testing, it is again of two types, white box testing and black box testing. So as part of the white box testing, unit testing comes into the picture. And how to perform the unit testing, you have two methods, code, statement and path coverage and the branch coverage. Considering black box testing, you can perform integration testing, smoke sanity testing, functionality testing, regression, system and UAT. Now coming to the another side, which is the non-functional testing, you can check for the performance, load and stress. You can check for the compatibility, security, recovery, usability and cookies testing. Now the question could be that what is the explain what is white box testing. So testing the code and internal structure comes under white box testing. Code's internal structure, design and implementation is tested as part of the white box testing. It is also known as glass box testing or open box testing or structural testing. So unit testing is the main part of white box testing, or the main methodology which is followed as part of the white box testing is called unit testing. So once the developer develops their piece of segment, each individual component is tested independently in this testing for their expected outcomes. Now, talking about integration testing is something that comes as part of the white box and black box both. So it depends upon your organization whether they want to put the integration testing as part of white box or the black box. But talking about integration testing, when two independent units of codes are merged or integrated, then checking that whether the functionality is working together in the integrated or merged segment, then it will be called as integration testing. Black box testing is a testing type, and as part of black box testing, the functional behavior of requirement is tested. It is also known as behavioral testing or closed box testing. Question number 25. Explain black box testing types. So if you remember the chart that we showed earlier, the functional test and non-functional are the two aspects of the black box testing, and those testing that needs to be performed as part of functional test is smoke sanity, feature or functionality, regression testing, system testing and UAT. As part of non-functional testing, performance, compatibility, usability and GUI testing are done. Question 26. Explain grey box testing. So grey box testing is a combination of white and black box testing. The idea is to find the improper structure or improper uses of application. It is based on functional specification, UML diagrams, database diagrams or architecture view. Grey box testers handle design complexities, test scenarios. Integration testing. When two independent units of codes merged, then checking that whether they function together is called integration testing. Question number 28. What is stub and drivers? So stubs and drivers are the dummy piece of code called in to create an integrated environment where some work is not completed yet or not available for testing. So basically they are the piece of code that are inserted into the system when you want system to perform in a certain way. Right, let's say you have two modules, and once the two modules function together, the third module should be displayed. But you do not have third module ready at the point. So what you can do, you can insert certain piece of code in such a way so that when the integration of module A and module B is successful, then that piece of code may be can be triggered, and that's how you will be knowing that your integration is functioning as it is expected. Now question number 29 and 30 that we are going to talk about in this video is really important, where an interviewer may ask that what is the difference between smoke and sanity. So here what we are going to see that what is smoke testing and what is sanity testing. So as part of smoke and sanity testing, the critical or the major functionalities are tested, but it will be depending upon the nature of the application, and accordingly we'll be calling it whether it is smoke testing or sanity testing, because we are doing the same thing as part of these two testings. We are checking the critical functionalities. So when you have an unstable version of the application, when your application is relatively new and you haven't performed much regression testing on that application, and you do not know whether the application is stable enough or not, because every time you perform the regression you find n number of errors into your application. So that's how you can consider that whether your application is stable or unstable. So if you are finding more and more errors while performing the regression testing, then you will be calling your application as unstable. And when you check for the critical functionality on an unstable application, then you will be calling it smoke testing. Now, sanity checks. So when you know that during the execution of regression testing on your application you are not finding much errors, and you know that your application is quite stable, then performing the critical check on that application will be called as sanity checks. Now, what is functional and regression testing? So functional testing are the testing of the new features, and regression testing is the testing of the old features. So let's say when you had application's first version called version 1.0, and it has requirement A, B, C, and when this version was supplied to the testers and they performed the checks for feature A and B and C, then it was called as functional testing. And as you can see that this is the very first release of the application, you do not have any older application, so you won't be performing the regression testing on this build. But later when you receive the build number 2.0 and it has requirements D, E, F, then for release 2.0 you will be performing the functional testing for requirement D, E and F, and you will be performing the regression testing, and as part of regression testing you will be checking the older requirements which are A, B and C. So this is the difference between functional and regression testing. Similarly, an interview may ask you that what is retesting, or what is the difference between retesting. So as you saw what is regression testing, what I'm going to talk about now is retesting. So once a bug is fixed, then checking the same functionality again to ensure that the bug fix is okay, it will be called retesting. This testing is done to ensure that bug fix is working okay, and based on that the bug status will be updated as fixed or reopened. What is exploratory testing? Exploratory testing is the type of testing when you are not supplied with any given requirement, and it's just that you have an application and you have to do this testing for that application. Then you will be exploring the application, and at the same time you will be writing down some of the issues that you find. So this testing will be called as exploratory testing. 32. What is system testing? System testing is a testing of the whole system in an integrated environment with all necessary software and hardwares. It is usually performed in end-to-end environment. In complex business scenarios, one system works with collaboration of so many other systems. So testing your application when it is integrated with all other applications will be called system testing. What is UAT? So UAT stands for user acceptance testing, where the product is evaluated as per the end user's requirement. It is performed by the end users or stakeholders. Product is evaluated that whether it matches with the business requirement or not, and whether to accept or reject the product. Usually the UAT are of two types. It is known as alpha testing and beta testing. So what is the difference between alpha and beta testing? Alpha testing is performed by testers in a testing environment, whereas beta testing are performed by the real end users in live environment. So you must have seen on the Android Play Store or any website that beta version is released, which means that application is still in the testing phase. It is just that the end user will work or end user will test that application and they'll be reporting it back to the product owner. Alpha testing performed at developer side, whereas beta testing is performed at client location or end user of the product. Alpha testing comes before beta testing and beta testing is performed after alpha testing. Alpha testing involves both the white box and black box testing techniques. Beta testing typically uses black box testing only. Alpha testing is conducted within the organization and tested by the representative group of the end users. Talking about beta testing is conducted by the end users only. Question number 35. What is performance testing? Performance testing is a test done to determine how a system performs in terms of speed, load, and stability under a particular workload. Performance testing types are load testing, stress testing, and soak testing. So load testing is testing where a tester checks how application behaves under a certain load, like how the application will behave when 100 users comes on a website at the same time. Next is stress testing. So as part of stress testing, a tester checks for the breakpoint of the application, that what is the maximum load under which your application will stop responding. And last is soak testing, and as part of soak testing, what happens, you put a load for a certain period of time and then after you check that how the application is behaving. Question number 36. What is compatibility testing? So compatibility testing is the testing to check the responsiveness of the application under different operating system, under different devices and screen sizes. So here you can see I have attached one screenshot from the Browser Stack. Browser Stack is a site that provides the cloud service for compatibility testing, and here you can see that once you enter the URL, you can check that how the application or how the website is responding on different screen sizes and on different operating systems. So as part of compatibility testing, you'll be checking that how is application's responsiveness on different devices. What is software bug? And they may also ask that what is the difference between bug, defect, and a failure. So in general term software testing language, during an application testing, any deviation in actual result and expected result is called as a bug, whereas bug and defects are slightly different. So here you can see that bug is the general term used for all issues caught in testing environment. A defect is a deviation from the requirements. Defect word is used by the business person or stakeholders usually, and a failure is when an issue which is passed to the live user and it is impacting the application's intended users, then it will be called a failure. How to raise a software bug? So to raise a software bug, you will have to consider these points: summary, description. In description, you will have to write that how you can reproduce the bug. So you'll have to write the steps and then the actual result and the expected result. And if there is any URL or test data, then also you'll have to mention as part of the description. Component or assigned to, steps to reproduce, logs and screenshots, requirement references, release name, build name, environment name, priority and severity of the bug. So they may also ask that do you know any of the bug management tools? So these are some of the popular bug management tools known as Bugzilla, Mantis, HPQC or HPALM, Jira and Zoho. This is a very important question of an interview. Most of the time you will find that an interview will ask that what is the difference between priority and severity. So priority is the impact of the bug or requirement on business level, whereas severity is the impact of the bug or function on the application level. Question number 41, where an interviewer can ask you that what is the bug life cycle. So you can answer when you raise a bug, it goes into the new state and then the status will be assigned and it will be assigned to someone and the status will be changing to assigned. The person who has been assigned the bug, they will fix the application and they will fix the bug, and once the fix is done, what they can do is they can reassign it back to the tester or the person who has raised the bug. The person will retest the bug to confirm whether the requirement is again matching or again it has some issues, and once he finds that the bug is fixed, then they can mark it as verified and then closed. In case if they find that the bug is not fixed, they can reopen it and reassign back to the person who was the responsible to fix the bug, and again the same life cycle starts. In case if the person or the developer finds that the bug is invalid or the duplicate, what they can do is they can reject the bug or they can mark it as invalid or duplicate. So this is the general bug life cycle. A very important question that comes as part of manual testing interview is, what is non-reproducible bug? So when a tester reports a valid bug, but the same bug cannot be reproduced by the stakeholders or the developer, then this type of bug will be called as non-reproducible bug. So the reason could be anything like the difference in the test environment or the test machine, the location, test data, system configuration, or any system or server cache issue. So they will ask that how to deal with the non-reproducible bug. So what you can do is you can provide proper story and not just steps, record a video or capture a screenshot for proof, provide the system log, application log and server logs in case if it is needed, provide the time of execution, provide the location of test execution, and what you can also try is you can put question mark no cache is equals to 1 at the end of URL to clear the server side cache. Right. And apart from clearing the system or server side cache, you have to clear your local machine's history, cookies and cache memory, so that you can check it against the fresh machine. So what you can do, you can use any incognito window to check it. What is test management tools? So test management tools are the tools required to manage whole testing activity and reporting it in an organized manner. So manage the build and version for the test, to manage test scenarios, test cases and test scripting history, to map the requirements and test scenarios, test cases, to update the test case status while executing, to update the test case with a defect, to track the test progress, to generate the test report and to maintain the test history. The popular test management tools are HPALM, Jira, Qtest, TestLink and Zapier. At the current time, most of the companies are working or preferring to work on Agile model. So they may also ask that what is Agile model and whether you have worked in Agile model or not. So I'm going to explain it in 2 slides in a very brief way so that you can answer these questions too. So Agile is an SDLC model to build an application fast and in very short span of time. It delivers workable modules after each release. The development and testing goes side by side. It is a combination of iterative and incremental approach. Here you can see the complete life cycle of the Agile model. So what happens? The product owner will have a backlog. Backlog is a set of requirements, and they start with the sprint planning. In sprint planning, they put some requirements into the sprint, and they keep a sprint of 2 weeks or 3 weeks so that they can focus on the requirement and they can develop and test that requirement to be deployed on the live site. And once the sprint is ready, they will have a sprint, they will have a scrum on the daily basis. They will have a scrum meeting where they will discuss that what they did yesterday, what they are going to do today, and what they'll be, and if there is any issue, then also they will discuss it. And once the window of 2 weeks or 3 weeks is done, once the sprint is closed, what the product owner or the team member will do, they will demonstrate the product that they have developed, and once the product owner is happy, then they'll be deploying it to the live site. Right, and once it is done, they will have a sprint retrospective meeting where the people will discuss that what they did, how the sprint went, and if there is anything that needs to be changed to improve the process. Now a question is, what is automation testing? So automating the manual testing process by using any tool is automation testing. Using a tool to execute the test case is automation testing. Test automation requires a significant amount of money and skills. Significant amount of time can be saved by automation, and not everything can be automated. These 2 questions are usually preferred for the automation testers, but still you can get a sense of what is continuous integration testing. So continuous integration is a development practice that requires developers to integrate code into a shared repository several times a day, and each check-in is the then verified by an automated test build, allowing teams to detect problems early. So whenever there is any deployment, there will be a set of test case that is automated and it will be triggered to execute on the cloud. And once the test case is executed, it will share a result with all the people who are there in the mailing list, and they can give the status of what test cases are passed and what are failed. So here you can see one model that I have designed. So here you have Jira backlog, you create a sprint, and in the sprint you put all the requirements. Test team starts test planning activity and development team starts their development activity. Once the development is done, they will deploy that code onto the server. Right. So this is the development phase. Now talking about the test planning activity, what happens once the test planning is done? Test cases are added into the TestLink or any test management tool that they are using. In case if they have free time, they write the test automation script and they add that into the regression test suite and smoke test suite. And they integrate this with any continuous integration tool. They automate their coding or automated test cases with the server, and once the server has any new deployment, the code will trigger the cases from the regression and smoke test case automation suite. It will automatically execute the result and the result will be shared with the other people. And once they are done with the smoke and regression testing, they can perform the other sort of testing as well, which will be executed manually. So that's all talking about the top interview questions for manual testing, and it covers almost 90% of the interview questions that are being asked or that will be asked in any manual interview question. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching.